unused to the climate. I think that if man ever found a place to live easy and happy, that Eden is on Puget Sound. Eden is on Puget Sound. That Eden is on Puget Sound. A place to live easy and happy. That Eden is on Puget Sound.
Hello and welcome to the Seattle Files. My name is Chris Allen, I'm your host. Every week I get together with a different local comedian and together we discuss the strange, unusual, interesting, and oftentimes lesser known aspects of our local history. Joining me today on the program is Josh Chambers.
Hello!
Hey, thanks for being here, Josh.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Josh is a stand-up comedian. You can see him performing all around the Seattle area. He is an improviser with Comedy Sports Seattle. He also has his own show called The Ballard Boys, which is once a month at the Atlas Theater in Fremont. Want to tell us a little bit about Ballard Boys?
Yeah, it's called The Ballard Boys Present Variety Hour. It's every third Sunday at the Atlas Theater in Fremont, and it's a sketch and variety show, so we have stand-ups and musicians and characters and jump ropers and all sorts of weird stuff, and it's a really good time.
Cool. Where can they find out more about that?
Facebook.com/The Ballard Boys with a Z, not with an S.
Yeah, if you get an S, you get two young men from Ballard.
Two young men dressed in like rap clothes. I don't know. It's weird. They
So
have
Ballard Boys with a Z.
With a Z, yeah, with a Z.
Awesome. So, Josh, how long have you lived in the Seattle area?
I moved to Seattle in 2008.
2008. Okay, cool. And where were you from originally?
I was living down in Vancouver, Washington.
Oh, okay.
Just north of Portland,
Nice.
across the Columbia River.
Very nice. And how much do you know about local history from around our area?
Not a whole lot. Not a whole lot at all.
Cool. Well, let's get started. So, you don't know what we're going to be talking about today, correct?
Correct.
Excellent. So, let's begin. George Vancouver was born June 22nd, 1757, in Norfolk, England. He was the youngest of 6 children. At the tender age of 14, he was given commission as a candidate for midshipman with Captain James Cook on the HMS Resolution. I actually did not know you were from Vancouver.
This is spectacular.
This is serendipitous right
Indeed.
here, yeah. The ship, the Resolution, went on a voyage to explore Terra Austrailis, or simply land in the southern hemisphere. That's really just what that meant. The ship returned to England in 1775, and Vancouver was assigned to the HMS Discovery, also under the command of Captain James Cook. An expedition that, among other things, included the first European sighting of the Hawaiian Islands. So they're sailing around the world, exploring,
Nice.
looking for stuff. First Europeans to see the Hawaiian Islands. Cook named the archipelago the Sandwich Islands, in honor of John Montague, the Earl of Sandwich. Cook and his men encountered the natives of the island and reportedly traded metal for sexual favors.
very, very nice. Okay.
Yeah, so they traded nails, iron nails, for sex on the island.
I have this picture of sailors like oh shoot, we gotta find some more nails, just plying up boards on the ship. You're just like, it seems like it get kind of dangerous kind of fast.
It could be a problem, definitely. The ship continued on its travels through the North Pacific and a year later returned to Hawaii. They were greeted as gods, but soon relations went south. The ship left, but shortly after rough seas damaged the mast of the Discovery's sister ship, the Resolution, forcing them to return to the island to make repairs. So they're back to the island. The relations aren't going so well. The natives in Kealakekua Bay greeted the British men by throwing rocks at them. Then they stole a small cutter vessel from the Discovery.
All right. Okay. That's all right. I'm on board so far.
Yeah.
So far.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm impressed by your Hawaiian pronunciation. I didn't realize you were.
I worked on that all morning.
Yeah. Well,
trying to get that right.
Is that why you're wearing the Hawaiian shirt and the lei?
It is. Yeah. I try to get in the mood.
It seemed a little out of season, but now
I thought the coconut bra might be a bit much.
No,
but...
I thought it's a good look. It's a good
Thank
look
you.
for
Thank you.
Very
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Cook attempted to negotiate the return of the small vessel with King Kalaniʻopo, I believe it's how it's pronounced, which went poorly. A scuffle ensued, and a chief was shot and killed.
Oh.
A mob attacked Cook and his men, and Cook was killed while attempting to return to the ship. A few days later, the British men fired cannons onto the island, killing 30 natives, and the ship left Hawaii.
Sounds like it went pretty smoothly.
Yeah, well, better than a lot of encounters between Europeans and native peoples went, unfortunately.
European incursions go, it's all right.
Yeah. So pretty much blind retaliation. pretty despicable thing to do, all in all. 1779, Vancouver went back to England and at 18 had garnered the rank of lieutenant. His next assignment was on a sloop surveying coastlines in the West Indies. Career Navy man, through and through. He continued his career with the Royal Navy until 1790 and rose to the rank of captain and was given command of the HMS Discovery. He's got his own ship now. The Discovery departed from England in April of 1791 with the mission of exploring the Pacific Northwest coast of America, finding the Northwest Passage, and engage in diplomatic relations with Spain, who had taken control of a fair amount of land in North America. So the British have said, we claim this land, and the Spanish are now saying, no, we claim this land, all completely ignoring that people are already living there.
People have already claimed this land.
Yeah, for thousands of years. From official orders, Vancouver was, quote, to receive back in a form of restitution of the territories on which the Spaniards had seized, and also to make an accurate survey of the coast, from the 30th degree of north latitude northwest towards Cook's River, and further to obtain every possible information that could be collected respecting the natural and political state of that country. So the 30th parallel the 30th north latitude kind of cuts through Mexico.
Okay.
So really everything north of Mexico is what they're intending to survey.
Nice.
The Spanish had seized goods from a British explorer in the Nootka Sound, which is now Vancouver Island, on Vancouver Island. It's on the western side of Vancouver Island.
Okay.
Tensions were high between the two countries, and high hopes were made that Vancouver could smooth things out. So the ship disembarked from England. They spent a year surveying coastlines and collecting botanical samples in South Africa, New Zealand, and Australia.
All right, so it was quite the journey. So they were sailing. So they sailed south and then over to New Zealand and then up to the west coast of North America.
Yeah, pretty much. There's no Panama Canal at this point, so they got to go down around South America. In November of 1791, the ship arrived in Tahiti, and Vancouver had one of his men flogged for attempting to exchange a piece of ship's iron to a Tahitian woman in exchange for sex.
Oh, well, that's against the rules now. Okay.
It is against the rules.
All right, so, well, their last ship wrecked, I'm assuming, because it was falling apart.
Yeah.
So they didn't have enough nails.
But it went poorly the last time shipsmen were exchanging iron for sex, so he kind of wanted to crack down on that as quickly as possible.
Okay. I'm curious what they were using these iron nails for, because, how many are they getting per sex act? Because, what are you going to do with 7 nails? You know,
I don't know. That's a good question. But really, if you've never seen forged iron before, it's almost going to be magical. You've never seen this kind of metal.
That's true. That's a good point.
So this incredibly advanced technology, they might have even just been using it for ornamentation or for trade.
Tales all this time.
Yeah, exactly. In March, the ship anchored in Hawaii. There was a civil war going on in Hawaii at the time. And the last time Vancouver was in Hawaii with Captain Cook, Cook had been killed by the indigenous people. So not really excited to go back there, probably. They stayed in Hawaii for a short time, and the natives repeatedly attempted to trade goods for British guns. He denied their request for guns to fight in their civil war, writing in his journal, quote, I am extremely concerned to be compelled to state here that many of the traders from the civilized world have not only pursued a line of conduct diametrically opposed to the true principles of justice in their commercial dealings, but have fomented discords and stirred up contentions between the different tribes, in order to increase the demand for these destructive engines. They have been likewise eager to instruct the natives on the use of European arms of all descriptions, and have shewn by them their own example that they consider gain as the only object of pursuit, and whether this be acquired by fair and honorable means or otherwise, so long as the advantage is secured, the manner how it is obtained seems to have been, with too many of them, but a very secondary consideration. Which is a very 18th century British way of saying things.
No kidding. Mm-hmm. And it's also beautiful to know that guns have always been causing problems.
Yes!
It's,
All he was really saying is that he didn't want to give guns. He didn't want to stir things up. It's really the birth of the Prime Directive.
Indeed. Yeah, well, everything I know about the Navy comes from watching Star Trek. Mm-hmm. So, I knew about Captain James T. Cook. It was a guy I knew about already, so... But the Prime Directive, you don't interfere with the natives' affairs until they're ready. And
exactly,
then,
non-interference. No good can come of it. You can't give people guns because it's no good can come of that. Upon departing from Hawaii, the Discovery headed east to the west coast of North America, where it traced the coastline. In the surveying done, the ship house somehow missed the mouth of the Columbia River, which would lead to later disputes over the discovery between the United States and Great Britain. So you're from Vancouver.
Indeed.
Columbia River is pretty big, right?
It's pretty big. Yeah, it's I would say it's somewhere between real big and super big.
That's big.
Yeah, so it's big. Now sailing out like where it meets the ocean too. I mean, I guess I could see how you could maybe if there's like a fog, but like it's just a big open.
Yeah, if you're tracing the coastline, you're probably going to see the Columbia River. So it's pretty incredible that they missed it. April of 1792, Vancouver became the first European to sail into Puget Sound. The hopes of discovering a Northwest Passage proved futile. They were trying to find a waterway that connected Northern America, or the west coast of Northern America, to the Atlantic.
Right.
That doesn't exist, so can't find it.
Not that we know of.
Not.
Some of us are still looking.
You're a skeptic?
I'm a skeptic.
Are you a Northern Passage truther?
I am a Northern Passage truther. We will get to New York by boat one day.
Okay.
We will do it.
You're a believer?
I'm a believer. Maybe not this year or next year, but maybe my kids will see it.
Yeah, there's this election coming up, and nobody seems to be concerned about the Northwest Passage vote.
But if anyone's going to spill the beans on the Northwest Passage, it's got to be Bernie Sanders.
Yeah, you think so?
He seems to not care for the establishment's need to keep secrets from us. So maybe we'll finally get to travel cross-country by boat if we elect him president.
All right. So your endorsement right here for Bernie Sanders.
Feel the burn.
Northern Passage, yes. So there were, they sailed into Puget Sound, and a young boy from the Duwamish tribe, was around 7 years old, stood and watched the ship come in, and that little boy would later grow up to become Chief Seattle.
All
So
right.
Chief Seattle, when he was about 7, watched the HMS Discovery come in, which at the time you got to think was like watching an alien ship land.
Oh, yeah.
It would just blow your mind. I think it was a 3-mast vessel compared to the small canoes and technology that they had. Watching this thing come into harbor, amazing. Blow your mind. There were thousands of natives living in the Pacific Northwest at the time, belonging to multiple tribes. The expedition was nervous about encountering natives for obvious reasons, but it seems their concerns were largely unfounded. From Vancouver's memoir about being approached by a group of natives, quote, "On landing, which they did without the least hesitation, their behavior was courteous and friendly in the highest degree. A middle-aged man, to all appearances the chief or principal person of the party, was foremost in shewing marks of the greatest hospitality, and perceiving a party were at breakfast, presented them with water, roasted roots, dried fish, and other articles of food. This person in return received some presents, and others were distributed amongst the ladies and some of the party. The chief, for so we must distinguish him, had 2 hangers, one of Spanish, the other of English manufacture, which he seemed to set a very high value."
Hangers isn't like that you hang coats
I
from,
believe
or?
so, yeah.
Okay.
So they have some European goods there.
Right. Prime directive be damned.
Prime directive be
And now
damned.
the natives are hanging their clothes and they're getting very fancy. I see how it is. You should have given them the guns, I guess.
So guns over hangers?
Well, I mean, if you're going to give them hangers, you might as well give them, because you can use hangers that I just.
So you're pissed off about
I'm
this,
mad.
it seems.
I'm mad.
Yeah.
First we're giving away the nail technology, and now we're giving away hanger technology, but we draw the line at guns.
Yeah.
Seems a little hypocritical.
It's like the episode where the observation post that shorted out and that created this whole religion on the planet.
Yep. And it's coming in and out. See, if only we had the next generation back in these times.
If Vancouver had learned from Picard,
Yep.
What a world. But it probably did not come directly from Europeans. It was probably traded from other tribes that had gotten those goods over and crossing over. So it was probably their first encounter and they ever had with white people. And Vancouver later wrote in his memoirs, the situation of the spot where they had landed was delightful, the shores on each side of the inlet being composed of low country, pleasingly diversified by hills, dales, extensive verdant lawns, and clear spaces in the midst of the forest, which, together with the cordial reception they had met from the natives, induced Mr. Whidbey to continue his examination on shore. On this occasion, he was accompanied by the chief and several of the party, who conducted themselves with the greatest propriety, though with no small degree of civil curiosity in examining his clothes, and expressing a great desire to be satisfied as to the color of the skin they covered. So they don't believe he's white. They don't think he's white. Making signs that his hands and face were painted white, instead of being black or red like their own. But when convinced of their mistake by opening his waistcoat, their astonishment was inexpressible. From these circumstances, and to the general tenor of their behavior, Mr. Whidbey concluded that they had not before seen any Europeans, though from the different articles they possessed, it was evident a communication had taken place, probably by the means of distinct trading tribes. So he flashes them.
All right,
essentially.
I was gonna say, I like the idea where they're like, well, no, come on. Come on, just show us. Just open it up. Just
Yeah.
wait, come on, we know that you painted your skin. He's like, no, I'm serious.
Get in the water and wash yourself off. Come on.
Come on, buddy.
Vancouver and his men surveyed the land and set about making maps. They named pretty much everything they saw after themselves and their friends. So Puget Sound was named after Peter Puget, who was a lieutenant on the ship. The Strait of Georgia was named after King George III. Mount Rainier was named after Rear Admiral Peter Rainier, who never visited the Northwest.
Classic.
Yeah, natives have been calling it Tahoma or Tacoma.
Yeah, see, that's just a way dumber name. Why would they not accept Rainier? It makes sense.
Yeah. Wait, you say Rainier is a dumber name?
No. It's of course it should be Rainier. The guy's never been here.
Oh yeah, naturally. Yeah. It was.
Why would we stick with Tahoma?
Some people think that it was a slight as well because Rainier was a very overweight man, and like that mountain is the size of Admiral Rainier. Let's call it Rainier.
See, classic zinger.
Yeah, exactly. And so all these years later, we're still calling it Rainier after a fat joke from the 1700s. Mount Baker was named after 3rd Lieutenant Joseph Baker. It was known to the natives as Comacultion. Mount Hood was named after Admiral Lord Samuel Hood. The Multnomah people had been calling it Waiaist. Naming rights were given to Lieutenant William Broughton because he saw it first.
I like that the rules of naming things are also the rules of who gets to sit in the front seat.
Yeah, he called shotgun on the mountain.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I love that it's called that. It's called Mount Hood now because somebody in the 1790s had dibs.
Yep. Beautiful.
Mount St. Helens was named after British diplomat Lord St. Helens, a friend of Vancouver. The natives had been calling it Liawalaclof, or Liawatala, or Lewitt. And I'm probably pronouncing those names very poorly. Port Townsend, was named after Marquis of Townshend, a British nobleman. So they're just naming everything.
Right.
Everything they can. Complete disregard for what the natives had already been calling it for thousands of years. I
mean, you get bored after being on a boat, I'm assuming, for months and months and months and months. And so you're just hanging out with your buddies. You're like, yeah, that pile over there is, that's Tim's Bay. Tim's Bay. It's fine. He'll love it. He'll love it.
Yeah. You can't give gifts. You can't trade nails for sex anymore.
Exactly.
You don't have games. You don't have things to do. So you just start naming things.
No, I get it. Totally get it.
Yeah. Hood Canal was named after Right Honorable Lord Hood, a Vice Admiral in the Royal Fleet. Whidbey Island was named for Joseph Whidbey, who was master of the HMS Discovery, and the same guy that essentially flashed the natives when they didn't believe he was white. Vashon Island was named after Captain James Vashon, a friend of Vancouver. And Port Orchard was named after H.M. Orchard, a surveyor on the Discovery. So everything is named after these people. In total, they named 75 mountains, islands, waterways, and unique land features.
That is a lot.
That is a lot, yes.
I'd say it's less than 100, but more than 50. So that's a lot.
Yeah, this is similar logic to the size of the Columbia River.
Yeah. It's I don't want to brag. I did go to college, so I'm
good
at estimating these sorts of things.
Hey, what'd you study in college?
Science, political science, but I mean,
political science.
Still a scientist, technically speaking.
You're a scientist.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you need any help with the sciencey parts of the story, just let me know.
Okay, yeah, I will. What's the science of the Puget Sound?
Well, you know how there's oceans.
Yeah.
And then there's also lakes.
Yeah.
Well, like Sound, the Puget Sound, it's sort of in between an ocean and a lake. It's pretty big.
Mm-hmm.
It's water. It's salty, maybe.
What's the difference between an ocean and a bay?
Well, you see,
or a sound and a bay.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, so a bay, in my opinion, has much more sultry curves on the coastline. Kind of a more gentle roll. A sound is just kind of like, that's the sound. Actually, it's and that was harder to say. It's actually maybe the native word for bay. I don't know.
All right.
This is more street knowledge.
So a bay is more erotic,
and
a sound is more vulgar.
It's more absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. So it's the difference between erotica and pornography.
Sure.
Sound
yeah, absolutely.
All right. Okay. I'm with you. After taking detailed surveys of the waterways of Puget Sound, the Discovery sailed north to Nootka Sound to negotiate with the Spanish. Vancouver met with Senor Don Juan Francisco de la Bodega y Quadra. One guy.
That's a great name.
Yeah.
That's a great name.
I wish my name had that many
Absolutely.
things to it. Senor Don Juan Francisco de la Bodega y Quadra. Quadra was born in Lima, Peru, and was a distinguished gentleman of the Spanish Navy. Quadra and Vancouver became fast friends. Despite their countries of origin, they had a great deal in common, both hailing from well-to-do families and both concerned with gentlemanly pursuits. He's a Spanish gentleman. Vancouver is a English nobleman.
That's interesting. The only thing I remember about Vancouver, the man, not the place. I remember a few things about the place. Is that speaking of gentlemanly pursuits, is that he refused to shave. Like he, like his men had to get him drunk and hold him down to trim his beard.
Shave?
Yeah,
really?
Yeah, and so
I did not know that. I did not find that in my research.
Well, it could be an urban legend. I don't know. But that's the only thing I remember about him from being a kid. I was like, and so when you say gentlemanly pursuits, I'm like, man, this is probably a ragged dude. But then also being fancy with Don. 4 syllables.
Senor Don Juan Francisco de la Bodega y Quadra.
Yes, that's the one.
I've never heard that he wouldn't shave. That's interesting.
Well, I hope I didn't just make that up.
No,
that'd be
if you did, that's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. So Quadra and Vancouver became fast friends. They were unable to reach an agreement over the matter of Nootka Sound and several other ports the Spanish had taken control of, but they were able to reach an agreement on what to name the massive island they were inhabiting. And they named it Quadra and Vancouver's Island, which eventually...
Very creative.
Very creative, yeah. It's that this is mine, and this is mine, and this is mine. It's like a bunch of 4-year-olds.
I like that they split that one, though. That was...
Oh, yeah.
I'd like to think they were arm wrestling, for it. And it was just it was a tie.
You just couldn't get to an end.
Yeah. So they came to a gentleman's agreement.
Gentleman's agreement. It's
Quadra
both of our islands.
Of course.
Not the natives that have been living here forever. No.
That would be absurd.
Eventually, the Quadra part was removed, and the name was henceforth referred, or the island was henceforth referred to as Vancouver Island, which it is known today. The Discovery departed from the northwest to take the long journey home, making a full circumnavigation of the globe. The ship returned to Hawaii, where it held a council of Hawaiian chiefs aboard the ship. The chiefs agreed to a protective alliance between the Hawaiian Islands and the British. So because they had agreed to this protective alliance, Vancouver interpreted that to mean that they were ceding the islands to the British. So Vancouver planted the British flag on the island and claimed the land in the name of the king, which is why to this day the Hawaiian flag still has the Union Jack on it.
Gotcha. Oh, interesting.
Mm-hmm. The Discovery returned to England after a journey of 4 years, 8 months, and 29 days, which is a long time if you don't shave.
Yeah, very long time if you don't shave.
Looking scraggly. Only one crew member died on the journey. He died of dysentery in South Africa on the first leg of the trip. Vancouver fell into poor health not long after returning to England. It is believed he had tuberculosis and died at age 40. He did die at age 40. It was believed he had tuberculosis.
Gotcha. Some say he still wanders the earth today, naming islands and mountains wherever his ghastly figure crosses.
The sound of his beard scratching along the earth wakens school children in the night. Vancouver's legacy is irrefutable and long-lasting, but it is also very troubling. Though he himself maintained a positive relationship with the native inhabitants of the Pacific Northwest, it is certain that his mapping and surveying of the area contributed to the later occupation and displacement of the native tribes in years to come. The controversy over renaming land features, which had been previously named by natives, has come to the forefront recently in the changing of Mount McKinley in Alaska to its original name of Denali.
That, the naming it, changing it from, naming it after a president to naming it after that SUV is a little, it's a bold move, but, I see where they're coming from on that.
Yeah, it is odd that they decided, like, hey, you know what's cool? Those sport utility vehicles, let's name it after that.
Yeah. But no, I thought the outrage about that, was mostly hilarious, because my father-in-law, or ex-father-in-law, very conservative old man, went ballistic about it, and I was like, did you know that Mount McKinley was there before?
Really?
And he's like, no, but I was like, did you know McKinley was a president? And I suspect that he didn't.
Okay.
But like the outrage from the conservative wing of my family was mostly hilarious.
Yeah, it seems really strange that people would be upset about that.
Yeah.
Because in the climbing community, it's been known as Denali forever. Mm-hmm. Nobody calls it Mount McKinley. It's always been Denali. On every information you'll read, every book you'll read on climbing, it's always been Denali. And so it is very strange that people got upset about reverting it back to its original name, that a majority of people, it's in Denali National Park,
right?
That a majority of people are already calling it Denali, and it seems like a good gesture.
Yeah. No, and it sounds like maybe we'll try that with Rainier, too?
I don't know.
Tahoma?
I heard a little bit of rumblings about that, but then they immediately died down. I haven't heard anything since. There might be some groups that are still pushing for it. I'm in favor of it. Yeah. I think that would be great.
And again, like, who cares, man? Like, just do it. Like, some people are obviously very passionate about this. I don't care one way or the other. Mm-hmm. Rainier beer will still be Rainier beer. And that's the only Rainier that's important to me.
Okay. Well, the small mountain on the side of Rainier is Little Tahoma. Okay. That's what that's called. So there's a Tahoma.
Well, now I'm going to have to look into changing that to Little Rainier.
Little Rainier? So you're going the opposite direction.
You can have the big one, but...
You're saying name more things after...
Well, if we
let's call Snoqualmie Tim's City.
Tim's City, exactly. Mm-hmm. Tim's City. But if we rename Big Rainier, that's a good step towards apologizing for that fat joke back in the 1800s. And then if we rename Little Tahoma Little Rainier, it's like, hey, buddy, see here. I'm sure he lost some weight after he heard that there was a mountain. You know, that can be a very shameful experience.
That can be, yeah. That's body shaming.
That's body shaming, absolutely. Yeah. So maybe if we give him Little Rainier, we'll make up. We'll have Tahoma. We'll make up for the naming of stuff, and then we'll have Little Rainier. We'll make up for the fat shaming, and everyone can feel good and progressive here in the Northwest.
Yeah, I don't think Admiral Rainier would. I don't think anything would bother him too much because I don't have it in my notes, but I think he's dead. I'm pretty sure he's dead.
I mean, I'm going to Google that later, so...
Yeah, please do.
Okay.
Please do. Fact check.
I will, absolutely.
Absolutely. Edward S. Meany wrote in his book, Vancouver's Discovery of the Puget Sound, his, quote, observations of the soil, the climate, the trees, flowers, and birds are surprising when one remembers the newness to all members of the party. Especially valuable and interesting are the recorded observations of the natives. Their houses, canoes, weapons, clothing, food, and language were all commented upon in a way that will always prove to help the student of these Aboriginal peoples.
All right.
Yeah.
That, I didn't realize that Aboriginal was a general phrase that we could use for natives.
It just means native peoples.
Yeah. No, I've only ever heard that in the context of Australia.
Australia, yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Which is fascinating.
I as well had only heard that for years and years, and I thought when people started referring to natives in other areas as Aboriginal people, it's like, no, that's Australia. And it turns out I was wrong. And I got very mad. Because I do not like to be wrong about things.
I can understand that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but the contention is that his documentation was helpful in preserving a lot of the knowledge about these peoples that have at this point been, unfortunately, largely wiped out for a variety of reasons. In a variety of ways, and preserving a lot of the information about that. And I don't know how I feel about that. That's a very kind of let's alleviate our white guilt kind of stance on it.
Way to go, buddy! Like, see, there's some good came out of it.
Yeah, yeah. An inadvertent byproduct of conduct between natives and Europeans and Americans was the arrival of new pathogens, most seriously smallpox and malaria. The new diseases tore through the native populations, killing and blinding many, as well as negatively affecting the birth rates among tribes, lowering the numbers and make it easier for colonizers to come and dominate the area. So it really is kind of a troubling legacy that he's left behind. I mean, there's a controversy about him naming things which at the time wouldn't have been considered a controversy at all. And the introduction, I mean, his ship is not known to have introduced any new diseases, but the arrival of diseases, even amongst people who were not interested in colonizing, taking things over, displacing the natives.
Still inadvertently caused the drop-off in population, which is a shame.
Yeah. Which leads to the question, I mean, it's the same kind of prime directive question of, can you have just a pure exploration without affecting the areas that you are exploring?
Right.
Because he was just interested in map making and surveying the area, and probably the people that were hiring him and sending him out were more interested in colonization. But he seemed to be purely interested in exploration.
Yeah, I mean, I think if this were to happen today, and we were able to realize that, like, oh yeah, like if there was an uncharted, say, continent still today, we'd be like, all right, well, we know that we probably have diseases they don't. You know, we probably have this, and this. Like, we could put precautions, I think, maybe in place. But but I think there's something sort of tragic about the naivety of the time where, you know, they didn't know that they were bringing disease. I'm not trying to alleviate the guilt and shame of that, but like I think that maybe nowadays we could, but probably we'd fuck it up.
Probably not. Yeah.
We'd really fuck it up.
Yeah, it's that you inherently change anything that you observe. You can't be a pure observer. Right. Actually, I'm just remembering now reading about satellites that they sent out to explore, and I believe it was when Europa was discovered to have salt water on it. They made sure that the satellite did not crash into Europe. They were just sending it out there. Right. Because there's a protocol in NASA now where if something is believed to have life, you don't send something there because you might inadvertently infect microbes and contaminate that life. So there is a plan in place in NASA for that.
Right. To safely interact without changing. Oh, that's fascinating.
Yeah.
I'd like to bring up a real controversial topic if I could.
Sure.
Maybe Captain Vancouver's darkest legacy.
Mm-hmm.
And that is naming 2 cities after himself. Now, I don't know if you're familiar with Vancouver, British Columbia. It's a town.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no,
I
am indeed.
Small fishing village north of here.
Yeah.
Something. But there's also Vancouver, Washington, where I'm from.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, story of my life is I'm from Vancouver. Oh, you're
Canadian.
No, I am not. I am from America's Vancouver. That's what we called it. That's what our mayor called it when I was a kid. He was named Royce Pollard. I think was his name. And his tagline was always Mayor of America's Vancouver.
Okay.
And being from Vancouver, that close to Portland, and also named Vancouver, we had a number of insecurities. One was being from the smaller, less known Vancouver,
right,
and then the other one was being basically Portland,
right? Yeah.
And so he was always very clear that it's from America's Vancouver, and no, we're not Portland. And so my favorite thing that he ever did was he went around with a photographer from the newspaper to every Starbucks in Vancouver, and wherever he found Starbucks mugs that said Starbucks, Portland, Oregon, he'd smash them.
Really?
Take photos. So he basically, I'm blaming Captain Vancouver for this sort of strife. You know, there's still a silent war going on for which Vancouver is the real Vancouver.
Yeah, and
it's the one that's not basically Portland. I just want to make that clear. I stand with America's Vancouver.
The
men and women of America's Vancouver, and their Ford trucks. And their hunting licenses.
Yeah.
And their jobs in Portland.
Yeah.
And their tax-free lifestyle.
Oh, yeah.
I stand with them. I just want to make that clear right here, right now.
Okay. Excellent. I had to work for a while where I would go, we're both comedians, I would do shows in Portland twice a week for like 6 months, and I would have to drive down and back.
Right.
And the joke, you know, when you're going on the road and you do the joke of those jokers over there in neighboring town, and everybody laughs and everybody thinks it's so great and original, and you die a little bit inside.
Oh yeah.
Calling Vancouver Portland Jr., huge laugh and anger, just anger from the people from Vancouver. It was always killed my soul a little bit, but got huge reactions from the crowd every time, and I didn't realize how seriously people took that.
I'm surprised that you made it out of there.
Yeah.
Security at the shows was pretty good.
Yeah. I had my engine running in the parking lot, ready to book out of there.
In your bulletproof Denali?
Yes, my Denali.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't think Vancouver, Washington was actually named after... It was named after him, but I don't think he named it. I was after Fort Vancouver, which was a little bit later on and established a little bit after that.
Are you mansplaining my hometown to me, Chris?
I think I might be,
That's good, because I didn't know that. That was good information.
That was going to be the original subtitle of this, is The Seattle Files, Chris Allen mansplains history to you.
Beautiful. I can't believe you didn't go with it.
It was a marketing thing. I talked to some people, and they said, try something else. So.
The current subtitle of Stuff You Might Know, maybe, is a little less enthusiastic, but it's all right.
Mm-hmm. Oh, well, thank you for listening to the Seattle Files. Thank you again, Josh, for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll be back next Tuesday with a new episode with a new topic and a new guest. Be sure to like us on Facebook, subscribe, and rate in iTunes. If you have a topic suggestion that you would like to hear an episode about, shoot me an email at theseattlefiles@gmail.com. Thank you for listening. I'll be back next Tuesday with a new episode.